Welcome into Texans today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and the dust has settled. The 2025 NFL Draft is in the books, and so you know what that means. We got to analyze every single move the Texans made during the 2025 NFL Draft. I have the Texans draft grades from ESPN's Mel Kiper, plus I rounded up every NFL analyst that I could find and saw their grade for this Texans draft. And if it tells you anything about NFL experts, NFL analysts, they're all across the board on this Texans draft. Nobody truly knows until they hit the field, until they actually put the pads on for the Houston Texans. They have that deep steel blue on their back. Nobody truly knows how good these guys are going to be, but it's fun to look at what these draft experts think about the Texans draft class and how they might improve this Texans roster moving forward. Before we get going, I do have to give an update. The Texans had another UDFA signing. It happened while I was filming my UDFA video yesterday. So sorry, Junior Tafuna, I didn't get you in that video, but I did want to give him a quick shout out. He was another UDFA the Texans signed yesterday after the 2025 NFL Draft. If you don't know, UDFA, undrafted free agent, guys who did get drafted, he's one that the Texans signed. They're going to bring him into training camp, into the preseason to fight for a roster spot. And before we get into Mel's grades, we are on the road to 30K. We just passed 29,000 subscribers. I want to thank deeply every single person who's hit that subscribe button so far. I truly do appreciate it. Knowing like 29,000 people have hit that sub button and said, hey, we want more content from you. That really does mean a lot to me. It hits home that, you know, I'm just a kid who grew up loving the Texans, watching sports, and now that I get to, you know, live out this dream of talking about this team every single day, I truly do appreciate every single person who spent the 10 seconds to go down there and hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 30K before the end of the month. I know it's only 4 days away. We need 930 subscribers, but this would be a huge show to my bosses if you could go down and hit that subscribe button. If I could hit 30K before the end of the month, I really want to prove to them that Texans fans are here. We need more support for this channel. I need more producer help. I need more help for this, you know, bringing you more Texans content. And how I do that is showing the bosses, hey, this Texans channel is growing at a good pace. Let's get some support behind it. Thank you to everybody who's hit it so far. Now, let's get into Kiper's draft grades. He gave the Texans a B+. And I do have to say, Kiper was pretty weak in his grading this year. He's gotten soft. The only thing that really stood out was he still has a hard-on for Shedeur Sanders. But besides that, he gave basically every team a B, B+, and a couple A's here and there. This is what Mel had to say, though, for the Houston Texans draft. You get the point, and it's the reason my top needs for Houston all came on offense. The front office can't let Stroud's rookie contract slip away, especially in a winnable AFC South. But rather than attack the holes with its early picks, Houston kept trading back for more draft capital, including selections in future years. The Texans entered Thursday with 7 picks, but ended up making 9 in all. They made 7 trades in the draft. The Texans dealt their first rounder in one of those moves, but they made 4 day 2 selections. 2 of them were Iowa State receivers Jayden Higgins, brings 6'4" size and explosion outside, and Jaylen Noel, who brings speed and after-the-catch burst to the slot. They were both top 7 receivers on my board. As for the offensive line, Aireontae Ersery is 6'6", 331 pounds, and can handle speed or power off the edge. He might not step into a starting role right away, but he could develop into a starting left tackle in time. No guard here, but Houston did the most important thing for its draft, improve the offense around Stroud. So I want to know, 48 hours, we've kind of, the instant reaction's gone away. You've probably been able to see some highlight film of most of these draft picks for the Houston Texans. I want to know, do you feel better or do you feel worse about the Texans draft class 48 hours after? I definitely feel better, especially those later round guys. I do my best to do homework on all the draft picks, all the draft prospects that are coming into the draft each and every year. But when you get into around 4, 5, 6, and 7, it's hard to know every single one of those guys. So now that I've done a little bit more homework, I kind of like a couple of the later picks more for the Houston Texans. I really think they did a pretty good job of finding value, trading back, and not forcing picks, because I know everybody wanted the Texans to pick there at 25. They had Josh Connerly and Josh Simmons on the board. Maybe they didn't have as high of a grade on either of those guys as we thought. Definitely not, Josh Simmons, because The Texans didn't bring him in for a visit. They seemed like they kind of showed their cards a little bit of the guys that they liked. Kelvin Banks, Donovan Jackson, Gray Zabel, Tyler Booker. All 4 of those guys were off the board, and reports are coming in that the Texans were feverishly trying to trade up. They were on the phone with the Cowboys at 12, more than likely for Tyler Booker, and they were making calls throughout night 1 of the NFL draft to trade up to get one of their guys, and when that didn't happen, they said, you know what, we'll trade back, and we'll get great value at our picks, and I think they did just that. Jayden Higgins at 34, he was a round 1 guy. He was a guy that a lot of people thought could go at the end of round 1 or one of the first picks in round 2. I know Luther Burden was on the board, but I really do like Jayden Higgins. And his comp is Nico Collins, and people are like, we already have Nico Collins. Well, yeah, wouldn't you want 2 of one of the best receivers in the NFL? If he's a top 5, top 10 guy, what's so bad with getting another guy who's in his prototype in Jayden Higgins and probably can learn behind Nico Collins and how he's become so successful in the NFL. Aireontae Ersery, the more tape I watch on him, the more I absolutely love this kid out of Minnesota. I think for right now, he's probably going to step into left guard and have Cam Robinson be the left tackle, then maybe move to the left tackle spot the year after, but I really love this kid out of Minnesota. Jaylen Noel, like I said, my favorite pick in this draft. Noel is a speedy, explosive guy off of the line of scrimmage. Literally just from his stop to go, he is just lightning quick. Jaylin Smith, a little bit, I thought maybe a little bit of a reach, but he's a dog. He's a dog, and Kalen Bullock signed off on it. I'm cool with that. Woody Marks, the running back in round 4, I absolutely love this pick. I know a lot of Texans fans were mad because they wanted guys like Jayden Blue, Rashard Smith, who were more speed backs. But I promise you, when you watch this kid's highlights, when you watch how good of a receiver he is out of the backfield, you'll fall in love with Woody Marks. Jaylen Reed, the kid out of Penn State, I thought this might be the best value pick that the Texans made, besides one other pick we'll let y'all tell you about in just a moment. The safety out of Penn State, I think he's a great thumper and going to be a great rotation guy on the back end and really help out in special teams as well. Graham Mertz, we have CJ Stroud, so I guess a developmental guy who could maybe become a decent backup for you, but I thought, okay. Keontae Hamilton, this is the guy who at first I didn't really know that much about him. After watching more highlights, after watching more tape, after reading more evaluations, I really am falling more in love with Keontae Hamilton as a 7th-round pick. Does he make the roster? He's going to have to fight for that spot. We saw last year the 7th-round picks for the Texans did not make the roster. But Keontae Hamilton, I think he's a decent value pick for that round 7. And as I said, Jaylen Reed, maybe the best value. The other, Luke Lachey, round 7 tight end out of Iowa. If Iowa knows how to do anything, it's how to produce tight ends. And Luke Lachey is a good blocking tight end. He's different from all the other guys the Texans have on this roster right now. Stover, Schultz, Jordan, those guys are more of receiving guys. Irv Smith, he didn't really give that much last year, but I really like Luke Lachey in round 7. Now, coming up, more Texans draft grades. I did a little roundup. I found 5 NFL experts who gave their draft grades around the Houston Texans. I'll tell you what they said, and like I said, they vary a ton with some of these guys on how they view the Texans draft class. Before we get into that, if you need a brand new Texans jersey, our friends over at Fanatics have you covered. All you got to do, go to chatsports.com/Texans jersey. If you need a brand new CJ Stroud, if you want one of those jerseys, you can get it. So at this link right here, I'm going to put that in the comment section and description of today's video. You can get a Petrie, you can get a Stingley. These guys just extended. Tank Dell, really hope he comes back. You can get his jersey. Joe Mixon was also extended, and you can get the rookie Kalen Bullock, or a second-year guy, Kalen Bullock. Now, his jersey, he's been putting in work this offseason. Whatever jersey you want for the Houston Texans, they got you covered over there at Fanatics. So one more time, check them out. That link is in the comment section and description of today's video. It's chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. Now, let's look at some NFL pundits' grades for the Texans draft class. Bleacher Report gave them a B+, and after reading their little excerpt on it, I determined that their favorite pick for the Texans was Aireontae Ersery. They had him as the top-ranked tackle on the board in round 2, and the Texans were able to not take him at 34, but then trade up again and get him at 48. You're telling me the Texans got the best tackle outside of round 1, and they didn't even have to get him with their first round 2 selection? I think that's a great value, great pick by the Texans. Like I said, the more tape I watch on Ersery, the more I absolutely am falling in love with this kid. I really think he's going to step in day one and really improve this Texans offense and be a day one guy for this team. I know Mel said he doesn't know if he's going to start year one. I think he's starting. I think he's going to start at left guard for this Texans team. CBS Sports gave this a C+ grade. Really? Okay. And their favorite pick, though, was Jayden Higgins, which, I mean, I don't disagree, right? Pete Prisco said Jayden Higgins was his favorite pick, had a round 1 grade on him, and I think that's a, pretty consensus kind of thing for Jayden Higgins. A lot of guys had him in that top 5, 6, 7 wide receivers in this draft class. Texans get a really good guy, a really big weapon for C.J. Stroud. Now, the Athletic Dane Brugler, they did a little different, and I kind of like the way he did it because everybody complains about draft grades. Well, everybody gets a B, everybody gets a B-, whatever. Dane Brugler actually did it. He ranked all the draft classes 1 to 32. Not high on the Texans, though. He gave the Texans 24 out of 32. His favorite pick was Jaylen Noel from Iowa State, and talked about, how he had him as maybe a closer to round 1, round 2 grade, and the Texans were able to get him in round 3. I agree with Brugler here, though. Noel is a steal. I wouldn't have minded if the Texans drafted him in, if the Texans were able to get Ersery at 34 and Noel at 48 or in round 2, I would have also said, oh, what a great pick by the Texans getting Jaylen Noel, but they got him in round 3. So I think that's an amazing pick for Caserio in this front office. NFL.com. Who was it? NFL.com's Chad Reuter gave it an A-, and he didn't really give a best pick, but he was gushing about the Texans doubling up with the Iowa State receivers, Noel and Higgins. And, dude, these guys, I think it's going to totally reinvent this Texans offense. You have Nico Collins, and I'll talk about it later on in the week, but I think we're going to see a total revamp of this offense and this wide receiver room. I wouldn't be surprised if Mechie and Hutchinson, even though former Iowa State guy, are both not on the roster come 53-man roster cut down day. And then PFF, they gave the Texans a B grade, and they didn't give a favorite pick, but I saw a lot of Texans fans freaking out about the Woody Marks selection. And I was medium on it. I wasn't super this is the amazing pick. I wasn't also freaking out about it. But I want to read you this excerpt from PFF on Woody Marks, because I really agree with it, and I think he's going to be a great fit in this Texans offense. After spending 4 years as a regular member of the Mississippi State backfield, Joquavius Woody Marks transferred to USC, where he set career highs in PFF rushing grade, 85.9, overall PFF grade, 83.4, and rushing yards in 1,154, and missed tackles forced in 34. On 622 career collegiate carries, Marks only fumbled the ball once. So you're telling me you get a guy who's coming off a career year, is arguably one of the best receiving backs in this draft class, and does not have a fumbling issue. I think that's a win-win-win. Everybody wanted Jayden Blue, and don't get me wrong, I think Jayden Blue's a fantastic prospect, and he has that burst, that speed that's really going to be eye-popping and, catch you. Wow, dude, this dude runs in the 4.3s. The only thing, though, he's had a major fumbling issue. And for rookies in the NFL, that could be the Achilles heel of what gets them on the roster or makes it where they're not on the team in a year or two. If you have a guy who's fumbling the ball, the coaching staff's not going to trust him. They're not going to want to give them the football. And they're not going to be playable if they put the ball on the ground. And Woody Marks, so far in his collegiate career, hasn't done that, and he's a guy who's going to break tackles, has that swarm mentality, that toughness that DeMeco and this coaching staff really love. I think Woody Marks was an amazing pick. I gave it a B. I kind of moved it up to a B+. Hell, during preseason, going into OTAs, that draft grade might go into the A-, because I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with how good he actually is. Now, that's all I have for you on today's show, folks. Make sure to hit me up on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs. If you have any more questions around the Houston Texans, or you just want to talk about Texans football, chop it up. My DMs are always open. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are on the road to 30,000 subscribers. So if you made it to the end of the video and you're not subbed, my promise to you is this. Give me 1 week. Go down and hit that sub button. Give me 1 week. If you don't like the content that I do, hit that unsubscribe button. But let me prove to you why we are the #1 Texans channel here on YouTube.